And live on Facebook. What's up, guys?
Hello, Facebook. Is anybody watching?
Hello.
Hello.
Or can we continue that conversation we were having? Because we can't do that.
I don't think that conversation can continue now. Oh, Malcolm, you missed some of that, but that's okay. That'll come back later.
Nah. I miss most things. How are you gentlemen doing?
Hot. I'm a New Englander. I don't do heat well. It's 93 here today, and I'm bullshit because it's gonna be 96 tomorrow. I'm like, this is not okay.
Your mom told me they declared a heat emergency.
It's like,
Malcolm, you have friends over.
Yeah, I know, right? I'm busy. So Paul, do you want to introduce our topic for today?
Yes. So, as people watching may or may not know, and if you don't, you have some homework to do. Rory recently was on Tim Larkin's YouTube interview show. I mean, he does a lot of educational stuff, but he broke it. I mean, it was so long; it was a 4-parter. I think part 4 went up early this morning. I'm scrolling. I'm reading and I'm scrolling through comments, and one of the comments that made me chuckle is, do either of you have any chronic injuries from your various exploits?
I saw that one too, and I laughed out loud. That was
Me
hilarious.
too.
Wow.
Now, I've never met Mr. Larkin. However, I do know Mr. Miller, and I've had more than a few conversations with him about injuries, results, training methodologies, how to improve, how to deal with, how to handle, et cetera, et cetera. So I thought it might be, while Malcolm, we were joking that Malcolm's not going to have much to add to this conversation per se, because he's young and healthy. So far, yeah. Right. It's like,
Thanks, Rory.
well, I heard, where was it from? Time Stalks Us All, right? I think it might be from Star Wars or Star Trek. Time stalks us all. Like, it's coming for you, Malcolm, at some point. You can only get lucky for so long.
If I recall correctly, Tim injured out of buds.
Oh, was that it?
Yeah, he blew his eardrums.
Eardrums. Okay, I couldn't remember his eardrums or knees or back, but yeah, but he injured out, and yeah.
So Rory,
we'll try
not the laundry list because we'll be here until tomorrow.
We don't have time for that.
Top 3 cranky things.
The biggest one's not a cranking thing. It's starting to get the memory loss from all the concussions. That's the one that scares me most going forward. The things that are bugging me now, and I'm really, really lucky. My back is good. My hips are good. The one that's most scary in a way right now is my shoulder. My collarbone pops out. I didn't think that there was enough mobility in it for it to do that, but it just kind of goes clunk.
There's not supposed to be.
It actually makes a clunk noise. So there's a lot of workout I don't do like I used to, because I've just done so much damage to my shoulders over time that, like, just a push-up is just grinding bone on bone. I can still do them, but then I'm useless for a day or so. And the most annoying, stupidly, I have a permanently broken bone in one of my toes. It's the base of the toes are ball and socket joints. And so I was kicking a heavy bag and snapped the tip or the top of the cup and the ball and socket. And it healed a little bit and it was fine. And it broke again and it healed a little bit and it was fine. It broke again. And about the 6th time, it just said, fuck you, I'm not healing anymore. I'm just going to stay broken.
Well, or it healed in that new direction and angle.
Yeah, whatever. It just not ever happy.
So I told Malcolm, this one actually doesn't bother me in any way, shape, or form, but we were joking about the people who've been injured during training and likely didn't know it, like the old school walk it off type of thing. And I was once on a trip and I found a lump on my foot. I was in a weird place. I was like, what the hell is this? And a couple months later, I went for my physical and I checked with my doctor and he goes, my doctor's known me for quite a while. This is many years ago. And he goes, I know your pain tolerance and I know what you do and I know your stubbornness. And he says, can you think of a time that you probably banged your foot a bit and limped for a couple of weeks? I said, oh yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. He goes, all right, so you broke your heel bone And that lump is the resulting calcium deposit, and you need to buy new ski boots, because that was my problem. I couldn't put my foot in ski boots without this extra hunk of bone rubbing up against the side. It was super fun. I've been doing orthopedic in the last few years and had to have him look at the hands, and his answer was, "You won't like any of my solutions." So
Paul brought up something interesting though, because I don't have any interesting injuries, and I don't have enough of them for the to do the laundry list thing, knock on something. But Paul brought something interesting up because he was talking about the relationship between injuries and personal boundary setting. Because how many people have gone into a training hall or a dojo or a gym or whatever and had a nagging injury, really felt like it wasn't quite where it needed to be, and not because they chose to push themselves, but because somebody else pressured them, ended up training through something that arguably, even forget the injury part, just from a personal autonomy standpoint, they should have just been like, no, I'm not going to do that.
So I would say both the internal, and practicing your own good boundary setting, because we talk about longevity as one of the challenges in this.
Yeah.
One of my black belts today, we were having a conversation. It's like, I'd like to still be doing this when I'm 80. How? And one of those ways is, recognizing some things you're not going to do, right? There's certain things, Tomo Nage is off the list at a certain point, at least taking. With regards to, my own, using my history and my background, I had a badly sprained thumb. And of course, if you ever sprain a thumb, it's a thumb. You cannot not use it. So it was injured and re-injured and re-injured over about 6 months. And I finally got fed up and I started taping it. And the tape was not a stabilization. It was so when I went to jiu-jitsu, because I wasn't going to stop going, it was so I would remember, and it was a big flag for other people. Don't grab this.
You mean aim at that?
Or, well, no, I said jiu-jitsu, not kaiju kembo. It was
Fair.
So, Mr. Miller.
I didn't have the boundary thing. It's in judo, there was an expectation, like the 2 times I got my knee snapped, it was like, well, yeah, you got your knee snapped, but you have another match. But that wasn't, they didn't have to push me on that. The jiu-jitsu, I think my instructor was a lot smarter, but he at one point said, no, you need to sit down. I just watch you put your shoulder back in. You're done for the day. But I never felt pressured. I wanted to know myself. It was,
and that to me is part of where this stuff rubs up against itself. Like, how do you safely and with longevity in mind find the end of the envelope?
you can't.
I don't know. But how do you, and then on top of it, if you're training for personal protection, how do you push through the type of shit that happens when someone tries to hurt you, if in the room you have this opportunity to buck up and shake it off and you don't?
We do this. There's so many things. There's scalars that we treat as binaries, and one is the end of the envelope. You're never going to hit the end of the envelope. It's going to be some point where it kills you, but there's this huge sliding scale from where you are now to where you die, and there's payoffs once you start getting into the can you hit hard enough to hurt your own body?
Absolutely.
Right. And I'm not talking breaking hands. I'm talking, a hip twitch that's good enough to actually fuck up your own back. Or, the
shoulders.
Well, can you grab and pull with your muscles hard enough to pull your own joints out of socket? And it's like, it's one of those, yes, you can, but why the fuck would you need to know that?
Well, there's a whole fun conversation.
But I needed to know that. There's something you that wanted to know.
Two parts of the conversation. So conversation number one is, in a lot of cases, this comes back from my fitness background. A lot of the population we're working with sit at a desk all day. And that has a very particular effect on the human body, right? That isn't 8 hours sitting at a desk for work. is a very high level of deconditioning. So that's
haven't they
one
labeled
thing.
it a carcinogen at this point?
Well, California breathing is a carcinogen. So it doesn't,
Well, I mean, it kind of
They
is.
declared that bricks are poisonous.
yeah. So, but actually, Malcolm, yes, and for a laundry list of reasons that have nothing to do with this conversation right now.
It's fair.
Part number two, not that we should for ourselves. I have an answer to the envelope question, but it's not an easy one. And the answer is train long enough and you will find, you will brush up against those edges and pay for it in some way, shape or form. Right. I know now my sensei really likes small circle jiu-jitsu as a particular practice. And if you don't know what that is, a guy named Wally J really likes doing evil joint locks, elbows, wrists, fingers. And my wrists
I recommend
have,
all pros for handcuffing.
well,
Want to get a big guy in cuffs who doesn't want to go in cuffs? Finger lock specialists are where you want to go.
so I was going to say, I have law enforcement students, and one of the things they talk about is, yeah, you absolutely can pull your joints out of socket because they've had guys do it to them who are, wet or whatever other conversation you want to add to that. My one thing I identify with, my wrists are done. They've lived their life, right? So my wrists are now in the jiu-jitsu retirement home. I'm having to be very careful with them. I've been an orthopedic for a reason. And I no longer, I'm like, you're going to do joint locks on me. Here's exactly how you're going to do it. I'm going to set that boundary ahead of time. I'm going to be very careful in how I let people apply because they just can't handle it anymore. I was joking about like that's the fist these days because that finger doesn't bend and this one only partially bends. So, you train in and around. Much like I was talking about with my black belt earlier, I intend to do this until they put that last fucking shovel full of dirt on me in some way, shape, or form. And I will be very conscious these days about setting boundaries. Instructor level, I do this to my students all the time. This was never really done to me, but I pull my students, especially the adult level. Kids are made of taffy. It doesn't count.
That's a really weird way to put that.
They are, man. We get kids who they're in cast and their doctor's like, it's cool with us. And they belt test with their cast on. They're like, they can't hurt it anymore. I was like, oh, all right. Adults, every time I pull adult from something, I'm like, all right, over here you have discretion. Over here you have valor. Where do you want to be tomorrow? And there's a discretion valor conversation that we want to have. I know it feels bad to sit down when other people are playing. Sometimes you don't have a choice. Sometimes I'm not disrespecting your autonomy, but I'm going to make the choice for you. I have a fitness background, blah, blah, blah. But I'm also like, I know what the next thing is. I have lived and have the creaky thing. So I know what the next step is. And I don't want, we want better for our followers, right? We want better for those who come after us. And I want you to have all the knowledge and none of the creaks or less of the creaks. And that's my goal set if I have one in addition to others. We have 800 comments. I'm just going to run through them real quick.
800 comments?
No, not exactly, but they stacked up. So
it's a thing that happens. So
Jay said, I love Tony Torres post this last week where he said he would function on ibuprofen and rage. I have seen more than a few people do that. Martial artists have to be the most frustrating patients for doctors. Keith Webb. They tell us to slow down or stop training in order to heal, but we keep pushing and pushing our bodies. Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about, Keith. I don't know anybody that would do that. My doctor took an x-ray of my hands many years ago and he goes, I was like, oh, I'm like, do you think we can do something about it? He goes, no, that's done. This is a baseline for the future. Thanks. Appreciate it.
See, the key is you just don't go to the doctors. Makes it a lot easier.
That's what happened to my foot. It's fine.
What's a doctor?
A person who tells me to stop doing things I like doing.
It's just a guy in a room that smells funny. That's it.
Yep. Jay. Jay's about to feel bad about something I make people do. Jay, external pressure example, doing sit-ups with a partner slamming on my abdominal muscles with the side of a tie pad or bag glove when flat on my back, ended up having a hernia. I may or may not like that exercise. Rick Alford, good to see you. What's up, Rick? Jiu-jitsu retirement home. Yeah, that's my risk. Kids bounce and bend in ways that we adults just can't anymore. And there's, kids have freedom of movement that adults calcify and lock into place and lose. So, but it's 6:02 and this is a fun one. What's up?
We're over time.
I know I got babbling. So
Right.
anyway, Facebook, YouTube later. I'll put this up on YouTube. Thank you guys for joining us. We'll be switching over to our private Patreon call, which there's already people in the waiting room. So thank you guys. If you haven't yet, go watch the Tim Larkin interview with Rory. It's 4-parter. It's long. It's interesting. It's fun. It's cool. So
It's a good time.
yeah, it was cool. All right. Later, guys.